Oh, okay, then let's so let's just come into a few moments of our own inner space. So in addition to the focus that we'll bring to just the variety of feelings and sensations that arise, the simplicity and the beauty of this yoga is that really we're only really interested in bringing our awareness into the body, the breath, but also just this visceral sense of just being alive. So let's just sit with that just for a few moments, and I'm going to just open then with a short quote. So just make yourself comfortable, body, breath, and this visceral somatic sense of your aliveness. This is from a great American yogi, Mark Twain. Nothing exists, all is a dream. God, man, the world, the sun, the moon, the wilderness of stars, a dream. All a dream. They have no existence. Nothing exists save empty space, and you are not you. You have no body, no blood, no bones. You are but a thought. And now the meditation of yoga. So I'm going to begin opening up the jaw a bit. I seldom even do this in class when we're in person because it's very simple, but it can be a little tricky. But I worked with Ursula a couple of days ago, and I've been doing it on my own, feeling the connection between the jaw muscles and the tension in my face and the ankles and the metatarsals of the foot. So we're going to connect those two, and we'll get to the ankles a little later on. So I'd like you to just make your lower body grounded and comfortable. If you'd like, you can sit between the heels, yeah? If this works for you, but be aware that we'll be here for a while. So if you want to sit with the knees back, this is nice just to open up the knees. I brought a little bolster in, and you can sit on the bolster. So it works well this way to sit on something, but it's not necessary if the knees need to, if you just want to sit cross-legged, if you could even sit with the legs open. We're just going to be working with the fingers and the jaw. So just make yourself comfortable in any way that works for you. And then the key to this, doing this properly and effectively, is to not force it, to just apply a gentle pressure. This is a relatively tight area, and it's an area that we don't typically apply compression to loosen up the tension that's being held in the jaw, and also radiating up into the back of the skull and up into the skull. You possibly also might feel this in the throat and behind your eyes. So do the best you can with it. It's not very complicated, but if you don't have it just right, don't worry about it. The two things in this practice is, try not to succumb to this idea that you're doing something incorrectly, because if you're feeling something, this is feedback that you're getting and your body will just keep guiding you. So first and foremost, trust that direct experience. And the same thing, I strongly urge you to not believe anything that I say. And sometimes I joke with this with people that have been with me for a while, but if you're new, I'm not really joking about it. You can listen to what I say and take it in, but not to believe anything. This practice, whether we're contemplating something that is part of the larger yoga, the limbs of yoga, or something in the body, you want to trust your direct experience. So this is very, very important. We're not, using the framework of yoga to create another belief system. We're using the framework of yoga to kind of pull some of these belief systems apart, these habits that we have, and feel the body directly in the moment. So let's take, we're going to work with the 4 fingers of each hand, yeah? And we're going to take the 4 fingers of the right hand and just gently place it on that muscle on the right side of your chin, yeah? So you can feel it's what connects the top jaw to the bottom jaw. So there's a muscle there. And then take the 4 fingers of the left hand and place it on the bottom side of the chin. Don't place it in front like this, but to the side. Because ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to push the right side to the left and the left side to the right. And we're going to open the mouth and offset the jaw a bit, yes? So, and do it gently. The amount of compression with 0 being nothing's happening, 10 being I'm probably going to hurt myself. For this, I would say about 2 or 3 in terms of pressure and discomfort. The key to this is holding it for a while, because the fascial barrier of these muscles needs to feel safe and then start to give a little bit, yeah? So I'm actually going to time it very specifically, which I don't often do, but this is important for this. So let's go ahead and do that. Make sure you're comfortable in the lower body. Place the 4 fingers of the right hand on that right cheekbone jaw muscle. 4 fingers of the left hand on the bottom of the jaw, not the front, yeah? Then let your mouth just open gently. That's important so the teeth aren't catching. And then press the right side gently to the left and the left side gently to the right, and just hold it. So obviously the mouth is open. You can breathe through the throat, breathe through the nose. You can adjust the pressure. Typically, you're apt to go a little bit too deep too quickly. Okay to back off a little bit. If there's nothing happening, ease back into it. And really let the mouth naturally just open if it would like to. So we're not trying to hold the teeth close together, but just let the jaw offset and just keep applying just a steady, gentle, compressive force. You can let your eyes relax. You can let your forehead relax. And just try to keep the pressure up. Just keep it gentle. You can try to let your breathing relax so the breath doesn't start to accelerate, but we're just trying to keep everything relaxed, just except where we're applying this compression and letting these bands, these fibers, this meshing of this tightness just to start to soften a little bit. Good. So just slowly release. You can just let your hands drop down for a moment so the fingers can rest. And then just let the mouth open, side to side, up and down. Stretch the muscles of the face. If you want to make sound, feel free to do that. Let the head roll around a little bit. And just be sensitive to what you're feeling. If you're not used to doing this, it may have a soreness or an unfamiliar reverberation. That's perfectly fine. And then let's prepare to do the other side. So I failed to mention, this works best if you keep the chin relatively parallel to the floor so the chin doesn't drop down, but don't worry too much about that. And then we'll take the left four fingers and place it up on that left jaw muscle. We'll take the right four fingers and bring it down on the side of the chin. Again, not in the front, nothing will happen there. And then very gently let the mouth first relax open before you do any pressing. And then evenly press the left to the right to the left, jaw open, and just offset it. So just a light pressure. So something is happening, but you are not forcing. And especially with something like this that's unfamiliar, again, these two things, do not succumb to any idea that you're not doing this correctly. You're getting a response from your body over time, and as you become more familiar with working this way, your body will certainly guide you. Ultimately, the levels of sensation from pleasurable to painful become your ultimate guide. And then again, I'm just urging you, especially when I delve into a little bit more of the theory of yoga, sort of, framing the container, I urge you not to believe me, to explore, to allow this yoga to be not simply a physical exploration, but a contemplation as well. So if something resonates with you that I say, let it resonate, let it seep into the vibration of your body, and then see. You may want to work with it, you may reject it, you may be uninterested. It doesn't really matter. Again, try to relax the jaw open as much as possible if you can. And you can play with the pressure if you want to go a little bit more, but again, don't force it. If you need to back off a little bit, or you want to kind of pump in and out a couple of times. Good. So once again, let's release this. You can relax the hands down, allow the jaw to up and down, side to side. And you can let the head roll around a little bit. And this is good. This is primarily for those of you that either talk and or chew. This is for those of you that do those two things. So I would do this fairly regularly. And then just a little bit more while we're here, what I would like you to do now is, and I'm going to turn sideways to show this, is we're not going to come forward no matter how you're sitting, but I'd like you to interlock your fingers and place them on the back of the head. So you see, I'm not on the front, the top of the head, I'm in the back of the head. And then just let the chin tuck in a bit, let the elbows relax in, but we're not pulling it down. We're just using the weight of the arms to now kind of tug in this very delicate, upper spine, base of the skull, maybe into the shoulders a little bit. So it's just the pure weight of the arms, fingers interlocked in the back of the head, tuck the chin in and just relax into it. And just to be clear, this is a forward bend. So we're forward bending, but we're isolating this this is the most mobile part of your spine. So be sensitive to anything that feels delicate, feels sensitive, feels like it's pinching or tight. And again, don't force or pull. Let the chin naturally come down. Let the elbows relax in. And this weight of the arms is really plenty. And this is something that I recommend if you're habitually doing forward bends without, giving this part of the spine its due, its deserved attention. So be very, just feel what you're feeling here. It's a lovely place to explore. Good. So keep the chin and the head down. Just release the arms from that pressure. Take a nice, deep, full inhale breath, and then bring the chin up. Hold the breath as the chin comes up, and then open the mouth as wide as you can. Stretch the muscles of the face, and just let the air slowly come out of the throat. If you'd like to make some sound, feel free to do that. So really, really stretch the face muscles, the jaw muscle, the throat. And we'll do that again. So let's drop the head down, relax it just to where it was when we had the weight. Take a full breath, inhale, and on the inhalation, bring the chin up. So it's a little past parallel. Open the mouth wide and just stretch it as much as you can. Eyes wide open. You want to stick the tongue out, not necessary. I won't take it personal. But really, really stretch as much as you can. And then just relax down. Good. Not all the way down, just let's relax. And so if you have your knees bent back, you see I already undid my knees. Just undo your knees. If not, if you have them crossed, let's open them out. And you may or may not want to have a bolster. So if you are feeling tight in the hips and the hamstrings, have either your big bolster nearby or whatever you're using in place of the bolster, pillows or towels or blankets for some support. And no need to force this. We never want to force the framework of the body and then apply the compression. We want to always come to a little before range of motion. So when we do start to apply compression, it has some relaxed places to come into. So we're not pressure on pressure, but pressure into something a little bit more fluid. And then before we come forward, what I would like you to do, as you can see, my fingers are facing forward. What I would like you to do is turn both hands to the outside. Yeah, so now your right thumb will be facing right, left thumb facing left. I like to bring it in a little bit more. I'm actually putting this under my thighs. And then see if you're able to, if this is all you have or even less, just stay right here. If you're able to put the palms on the floor, go ahead and put the palms on the floor. Maybe yes, maybe no. And then once you're there, start to bring the upper body back a bit, but keep the palms on the floor. And there's a good chance you will feel as you bring the upper body back where the compression is coming from the fingers through the wrists, right up through the arms and into the shoulders. So even if it's just this, just to try to get those palms down, not force it, but just anything that you can do to to bring this compression into, again, unfamiliar place here. And then the shoulders come back a little bit, try to relax the shoulders. And let's just sit with this. Again, no way to be incorrect with this. The merging, if you will, the unification is to not separate from the discomfort, but to allow the discomfort to be, actually the discomfort can be the grounding of your practice. You know, we have practices where the grounding is the breath, the grounding is the body, and certainly that's the case, but also we're very interested in this mysterious quality, this mysterious dynamic of discomfort. So let it actually ground you, whatever you're feeling. And then it's lovely even then to let that label of discomfort slip away. You know, it's just energy, sensation. You know, be curious about how the conditioning of your mind may want to superimpose things that are not really truly there. Good. So let's come on up from that now. And let's just have any movement now with the hands, the wrists, the fingers that feel appropriate, just to kind of loosen that up. And if it feels stiff and achy and wow, what just happened? This is often your body saying, yes, please pay attention. We don't want this area to dehydrate. We don't want this area to stiffen and become brittle. So we want these areas open, not subtle, supple. We want these areas open and supple with as much fluidity as possible. So now we'll just come forward, and this is where I'm recommending some bolstering if you need it. So if you need support, as much support as you need. If you don't particularly need support, if your hamstrings are good, you could always come to the palms and relax the shoulders and hold here. You could come to the forearms, or if you have the range of motion, just let your whole body just sink into it. If you do have one of the large bolsters, sometimes it's nice to tuck it into the belly and support like this. Especially if you feel you're just going to be in this position, if you have an idea the body might want to go deeper at some point, you can put it out like this and then slide it out. So, just let the bolstering be intuitive to holding the compression for a long period of time. And continuing to just very naturally return to the body, to the breath, and to this visceral sense of being alive as it is right now. So let go of any expectations, how you felt yesterday, how you felt an hour ago, how you think you want to feel next week. how is today's body in this moment? And this can be very, very expansive. The connection with the body, the connection with the breath, the connection with this miraculous, mysterious sense of being alive. And let me just go back to that suggestion that I made. I don't want this to just slip by. This suggestion of, explore using the pain itself to support your exploration, to support your practice. And this is, first of all, this is very, very unique to your experience. So stay with your experience of this. No one can really, navigate this for you. And one of the things that we want to know is that, our mind is very conditioned in relationship to pain. So oftentimes we have to be willing to, first explore peeling back some of these layers of conditioning around feeling uncomfortable or around pain. So I'm not saying move away from it. I'm not saying move deeper into it. I'm not saying anything except you're invited to find a way to have this discomfort you're feeling in your body support your practice, to ground your practice. It's there for a very intelligent reason. It's there for a reason. Good. So let us come on up from here and let's just leave the legs where they are, and either, well, actually, let's take the bolstering away. So if you have some bolstering in front, take the bolstering away. You may want to bring the legs in a little bit. And what I'm going to suggest now is just go to about half your range of motion. Yeah. So wherever you are, don't go to where it's fully compressive, about half. Support yourself with your hands and just sway as far as your range of motion will allow, back and forth. So feel some of the weight of the torso, let the head relax down, and don't be in a hurry. I may even be going a little too fast here. When you get to the edge on one side, lean into it. Be like, oh yeah, this passive motion now, kind of intertwining with that stillness that we just had. So a little just swaying back and forth. You can even, if you go to the right, you can come off that left hip a little bit and just lean into it. If you go to the left, you can come off that right sits bones a little bit. So just have this be good. And then come back to center. Let's come on up. You can bring the legs in now, and let's just lie down and relax. And just continue to allow, each moment that passes in this particular container of our yoga is to allow you to draw, to relax everything inward. And how are you feeling in there? One of the things that is essential and primary to our exploration of yoga is this idea that there's an external world, everything that's going on out there, and there's an internal world, everything that's going on in here. And so when we're just going along without any maturity that this yoga is really offering us, we tend to think if good, happy, safe things are happening out there, that means we'll feel good, happy, and safe in here. If not so good things are going on out there, we feel not so good in here. Yoga is saying, question this. Is there a place, an essential place, an essence that you can relax into that is not contingent upon the ups and downs and the movement of the external environment? And again, this is not theory, or this is not philosophy. This is meant to be validated by your direct experience. At some point, if we're open to it and we are, we're open to exploring, we can start to see that pain itself and discomfort itself is a form of intimacy. because it's a way that we're, taking in energy or experiencing energy just as energy. And I'm going to, after we come to this next post, I'm going to say a little bit more about the role of conditioning. So whether we're working with, direct physical discomfort in the body or physical discomfort in our relationship or our whole environment, it's still discomfort. It's still a form of energy. And this is what the yoga is more interested in, is our relationship and our flow and our exploration of energy, not all the labels we put on these energies, and have our, our state of being, our state of wellness, our state of peace contingent upon those labels of the energy. Okay, so let's come on up, and I'm going to show 3 different ways to go to the same place, because I know there's a variety of blankets and pillows and props. So, and some of you may have a preference, and I'll maybe explain that preference. So if you have one of these small bolsters, yeah, then you can fold up the blanket. I'm going to fold it like this. Yeah, so this is a pretty significant height, and then put the bolster on this. You wouldn't have to fold the blanket to this height. You could fold it less, or you could just use this, but I'm going to do it with this. So this would be, if you have this, number 1 to do. And please keep in mind, especially if you're new to this, that our main objective is to stay in these positions as long as possible. So we don't set up so we have maximum compression, and then, after 3 or 4 minutes, we wish we weren't here. We want to just sort of forget about the compression, the body, everything that goes with it, and just sink into this this juicy place, you might say. So where we're headed here is the upper mid back, not the shoulders. My shoulders are going to come off of this, but the mid back, head down. And if you need something for the neck, always be safe in the neck. An extra blanket, yes, good. So here I am, pretty much mid-thoracic spine. Here's my sternum. Here's my bolsters. Right, like that. So that would be option number 1. Option number 2, if you do not have the salamander, then you take your blanket or a towel, if you have it, and fold it more in a cube shape. Yep. So the cube shape then will go in the same place. The cube shape will come right again into the mid-back. Basically the same thing, just a little variation. This happens to be a little bit more specific. So that's what I was saying. If you wanted to do this instead of the first one I showed, it just has a little more specificity into the sort of the muscles off the thoracic spine, but the same idea here. Yeah. The third option I would like to give to you, if you are feeling a little sensitive in this part of the body, and it's a tricky area, to maybe take something a little less. I'm using a towel now. And what I would do with this towel is I would just roll it up. So it doesn't have as much height as the 2, and it has more softness. And then the same thing, you would just take this roll and place this in the mid-back. Yeah. So just with this, be careful you're not too low. Here's my lumbar curve. I'm up here. So somewhere between that lumbar area and the shoulders. And then again, we'll just relax over it. Yeah, so this is nice too. Either one of those options can be quite lovely. And then if it starts to pinch in the lower back, just scoot up a little bit more. Again, something for your head if that's appropriate for your neck. And we will then, what did I say? Marinate in your own juices. I think that's what I said. breathing to soften. And there's nothing to do to make that happen except just allow the mechanical aspect of it to dissipate and feel the breath as this just incredibly delicate gift, as if you were studying the petal of one petal on one flower with a microscope, and you're just looking at a very, very delicate part of it and just appreciating it. And same thing with the breath. Let the breath come into the body and be just incredibly grateful, incredibly curious. And we take that magnifying glass and just open up the space of the body. How does it feel when the breath is actually weaving into the so-called structure of the body? So I mentioned earlier about exploring how how our mind is conditioned. So just as we're relaxing the contractions and the tensions of the body, we have a lovely opportunity to relax the entanglements of the mind. And our primary entanglements are often how our mind is conditioned. And what I mean by that is we most of us have a primary conditioning. You can be conditioned as an artist, a Buddhist, a scientist, a musician, a parent, a Christian, a yogi. You can be conditioned in the past. You can have a sense of importance or intellectualism. There's conditioning. There's a way of filtering, a layering of how we perceive ourselves, how we're holding ourselves. So the suggestion of our yoga is, can we just for a moment, just for the short length of this position in the body, put that conditioning aside and see if we can thread into our direct experience. See if we can allow a thought to come that may have an entanglement of conditioning, but just let it dissipate. Just as a sensation might arise in that lower left lumbar, can we just let it arise and dissolve? And the yoga is suggesting at some point to only trust what you can validate as direct experience. And then our conditioning will be there. It's lovely to have some leeway with this, to play with how solid and how seriously we take it. So we can think of our conditioning as a suit of clothes in the closet or a costume in the closet. When we want it and need it, we put it on and we go play our role. But to explore the depth of our being, explore ourselves as spacious awareness, it's often helpful to put this conditioning aside and then see all of the entanglements of the mind arising and dissolving in spacious awareness, all the contractions and tensions and ill feelings of the body arising and dissolving in spacious awareness. And especially all of the fears and the concerns and the contractions of the external environment. We don't suppress them. We allow them to arise in spacious awareness and dissolve. And let me be very clear, this is an important distinction in our meditation. We're not trying to clear the mind of thoughts. I'm not even sure that's possible. Maybe if we're completely enlightened or dead, maybe, what we're wanting to do is allow them the freedom to come and go and sit in this deeper place of a spacious awareness, this deeper place of balance and equanimity. And this is where we identify, this is our essential self. So allow the thoughts to come, we can't suppress them. We want them. We want to see that this is not essentially who we are. Oftentimes we think in our meditation, if the thoughts are still there coming and going, we have failed. Quite the contrary. If we can notice them and see them and allow them not to be entangled and not to solidify into this conditioning, this is great success. You are the awareness that all of these elements arise in, but ultimately dissolve from. Just allow yourself to feel that you're becoming absorbed into your breath. Breath as just very, very subtle, very sensitive. So you're slowly, gently weaving the breath into areas of the body that have no definition, no name. It's just energy meeting energy. It can feel like a wave. It can feel like a spiral. It can feel like space folding into space. So let's just deepen the breath. Try to stay in a few more moments of stillness and just let the inhale feel rather expansive and allow the exhalation to feel rather releasing. And I would just like you to bring the imagery into this breath that often what we're exploring is areas of the body and deep emotions that have become dormant or stagnant. And again, we don't have to put names on this. We're not trying to do a therapeutic exploration. We're trying to do a felt sense exploration. So the inhalation, feel just the presence of opening of your body, of your deep emotions. The exhalation, a relaxation, a regrouping. And just as an open-ended curiosity, exploring areas of the body that are somewhat stagnant, dormant, and the same thing with deep emotions, which ultimately are all intertwined and woven together. So we have the opportunity, whenever we like, to move away from this exploration as just mechanical and start to understand that there's a life force that is somehow open and expansive and keeping us alive and animated, but then areas of it get a little contracted and dense. And I'm suggesting maybe dormant and stagnant. So we just use the breath to open up space, to open up the possibility to be extremely and beautifully curious about our body, our mind, our heart, and this inner world that we inhabit. And then let's have a little movement. So you can put your feet on the floor. If you're not used to this, slower is better. So a little bit of movement, maybe the knees back and forth, maybe the shoulders. You may even want to bring the body back a little bit and get this bolstering lower, or bring the body down and get it higher. just so you release and relieve the muscular tension that has been building here. And then when you feel safe, you can roll off of this. Let's lie down flat. And if you'd like, you can put the legs up on something. If you want to put the legs up on a blanket or a bolster, sometimes it's nice after there was a bit of compression into the hips with the arch of the thoracic spine. So to sometimes elevate the leg bones out of the hips can be relaxing, but only if that feels good. And we'll just take a rest here for a bit. And I certainly want to include in this, this idea that I'm talking about how we hold our conditioning, is certainly belief systems, fall into this category, and they can be very, very elevated and refined belief systems. Nothing wrong with that. But the exploration, the visceral sense of this aliveness to explore this spacious awareness, we want to be able to put all of that aside. So it doesn't really matter. We can take them back if we like. We can take them apart and maybe put them back together a little differently. But whether we're calling it conditioning or belief systems or habits, these form grooves, these form physical, psychological, emotional grooves in our system, and they become very held, these patterns that are held. So the opportunity is to put them aside and feel the way that the body is holding these patterns more as just blockage of energy, as density, as discomfort, however we want to name it. So we're working fundamentally differently. Then when we come out of this space of this physical yoga, then we can layer back and we can explore, and we can take the direct experience of the practice and see how it then fits in to this conditioning. Is this really still working, or am I able to have an insight and make an adjustment? So it's always about self-inquiry, but we want to find a way to have as much access to our own direct experience as possible, because that's where the intelligence is. The intelligence is not outside, not with an expert or a living master or a book. The intelligence is in every single one of your cells. So let us come on up, please, if you will. If you can, if you will and you can. And I'm gonna, basically, if you don't have the big round cotton bolster, just approximate its height with whatever combination of pillows and blankets you have, or towels, or, yeah, so this is fine. Yeah, so this is a good, and it just has to be an approximation of this, and you'll see what we're going to do with it. So with the legs wide open, let's take the right leg and bring it in towards you. And we'll take that bolster and or the combination pillow and blanket and put in front of you. And then we want to just take the left leg and set it up on here. Yeah. So what's nice about this and what's interesting is don't be constrained by just the geometry of the pose. So when I'm coming forward, for me, when I did this morning, because of what's happening in my left hip, I angled this out like this, and it was so much nicer. It was like, oh, thank you. The hip was like, thank you. Yeah. So feel free to make any of these adjustments. I'm using this height just to get this femur angled out of the hip, so it'll take us deeper into between the gluteus, well, the two gluteus muscles, the maximus and maybe the minimus. There's two of them, big muscles. There's a piriformis in there that can tighten into your sciatica. So we want to elevate this, and you may feel different things down this left side of the leg. Yeah. And then just come forward, just relax forward. Yeah. Pay no attention to that blinding light. That is just, Louis has driven over here and he's just got a big flashlight there. It's not really, I'm not really sparkling that much. It's just part of, after we fixed the zoom, he needed something to do. So I'm being backlit now. So just try to relax, especially in the lower back. If this feels like you're struggling with it, or you may move towards injury, you can take it down a level. Like I said, you can angle out. The forward bend doesn't need to be initially that deep. We're always listening to really what the body needs, so it can really rest within the framework. We want to rest within the framework, and we want the discomfort to be as balanced as possible with our capacity to relax. And that will change over time. So sometimes it's very, very good to withdraw a bit, check in with that level of relaxation, sometimes to sink in a little bit more, to make an adjustment. So adjustments and being very conscious of how you're feeling, always a good thing to do. At the same time, to be as still as you can, to sink into this, complicated, alive, structural, physical body, and see if we can even understand what it means to use the pain as a support for our practice, that we're not pushing it away, but we're interested in listening to it. We're interested in the intelligence that it has to offer us. And if you do feel the urge arise, and it will start as an urge, if you're sensitive, you can feel it coming, to wiggle a bit or kind of mindlessly readjust. This is a habit of moving away from the discomfort. So with everything I just said about valid adjustments, at the same time, we want to stay with what we're feeling as deeply as possible. So when that urge arises, let it arise, but also let it pass, and try to relax in as much stillness. So relax into it. Because this is very interesting, what I'm suggesting, very interesting, that there may be areas of your body that are somewhat dormant or stagnant. We may be holding deep emotions that have gone dormant. So when it gets uncomfortable, if you feel safe, just stay with that. It will reverberate, it will inform, it will guide you. The energetics of your body, the incredible subtlety of your breath, and the simple, visceral feeling of aliveness. Good. So let's come on up from here, please. And you can push that bolstering aside, and let's let the legs gently open out front. And I'm thinking about hip width distance, but not a strict holding from the quadriceps, but a relaxing. So if you want to go a little bit wider, just to really let the hip flexors open. And we're going to come forward with a soft rounded back. If you would like to roll your blanket or put your small bolster under the knees for this first time, sometimes that's nice. It just takes a little bit of pressure off the back of the legs. So we can put something under and then just soften into it and relax. So avoid the temptation to think we're stretching, because we are not stretching, we're compressing. So avoid the temptation to come long and forward to try to bring the forehead towards the feet. We want a softening, a relaxing, and feeling like the weight of your upper body is creating various strands and pullings and tuggings of compression. And then if you need some further support, then you bring something forward. So you're always just hovering between that personal balance of tightness and distraction and struggle, and just relaxation and softness and surrender. And it's changing all the time, and it's always unique to you. This is why we don't have levels in yoga. I think in all yoga, because you're always meeting your body exactly where it is. We don't really care about an aesthetic. An aesthetic is not really yoga. And then instead of this, what I was talking about earlier of putting our conditioning aside, I know that's a lot easier said than done, and that these thoughts that arise, they can just be very entertaining, habitual. We can think they're important. But instead of having to get entangled with each one that presents itself, you can do something called mental noting. Just make a note of it. Just be like, okay, that's interesting. That's arisen. Now let me continue to sink inward. And same thing with the physical body. If something is pulling or tugging, you're more than welcome to bring your awareness as deeply into it as you'd like, but you don't have to. You could just make a note of it. You could say, okay, thank you. I'm going to keep relaxing. Thought arises. Thank you. I'm going to keep relaxing. Same thing with an emotion. Emotion can start to arise, and if you have the capacity, let it arise. Let it take you on whatever journey it's offering, or you can make a note of it. So part of our meditation is this, this mental noting, just noticing and noticing and noticing, and then allowing that noticing to not turn into a technique, because ultimately we're just softening and relaxing into just this energetic presence of vibration that we conveniently call a body and mind. So let's come on up from here then. There's a nice rolling, kind of a restacking of the vertebra in the spine. And then if you do have something under your knees, you can remove it. And we'll just continue with this. It's so lovely. So on this side, we'll then bring the left leg forward first. So last time I showed it with a blanket and pillow combination. If you happen to have the large bolster, this is also a good height. Again, it can angle, it can slide. Most important to not only relax and soften the lumbar, but as we did in the beginning, we brought some awareness to the cervical spine. So oftentimes, if we're stiff in the lower back, we'll come forward, but we'll hold that upper spine because it just feels unsafe to ease into what's being held there. But if we protect it too much, overprotect it, we're also holding the tension. So explore really relaxing the weight into it. And if it pinches or you feel unsafe, just gently withdraw. So you can kind of pendulate in, pendulate out, and then find a place where you feel like, okay, this is appropriate, an appropriate depth for me right now in this moment, in this body. Let me sink into my direct experience. It's almost as if you're creating this internal isolation tank. So we find a way to minimize not only external distractions, those are relatively easy, but the distractions of our own mind. So we can begin to, in a way, break the spell of being lost in thought. Yeah, nothing wrong with thought. Like I said earlier, we're not trying to clear the mind of thoughts, but we want to break the spell of continually getting lost in the labyrinth of thoughts. So this internal environment, like a laboratory, like an isolation tank, where we can just feel the experience as it is. This is why the mental noting, it can be so powerful, because then a thought comes, we have a way to honor it, to say, okay, for you to be here, but I'm going to just make a note, and you can just keep going from where you came. You can dissipate. I don't need to get lost in you. I don't need to get entangled with you. You don't have the capacity to distract me or upset me or bring concern to me, or you just are energy. Thank you. Same thing with the physical body. What is it that you're exploring? No need to get lost in analysis or a diagnosis, but just this is what I was saying about the visceral sense of being alive. This is your rhythm. This is your pulsation. You have a right, a birthright to feel it directly. Good. So let's come on up from here. Yeah. And again, you can remove the bigger bolstering. And then your choice for the, we're going to go right back into hip width forward bend. So, not past the width of the mat, but we want to keep this more hip, but with relaxed hip. So let the feet out. And again, if you'd like to use something, you can. If you didn't the first time and you'd like to try the second time, or if you did and you want to try without, it's just a simple adjustment, really. Either way works fine. And again, coming forward, you can let the body dangle, let the weight of the head dangle. If this feels anyway unsafe, you can just put some bolstering there and just relax into it. The other thing that we certainly get to explore, and this really is sort of the essence of the I was going to say philosophy of yoga, but even deeper than the philosophy, this is where the yoga becomes has the potential to become our spiritual practice, or a deeper inquiry. Because if we can start getting some of this distance, if we can get some distance from the patterns of the way that we think, we can start to experience the thoughts as objective experience. They're just simply objects, and we're in a relationship with them. They're not who we are. Then we can take it a little bit deeper and see how we're assigning value. So are we assigning value to these thought processes that are essentially worthless? Or are we able to sift them out? Are we able to put them aside? Are we able to get some distance from them so we can see what's really valuable and what's worthless? So in our niyamas, we call this austerity in yoga. It's not doing without. It's paring oneself down to only what is essential, only what is valuable. And this is very personal and unique to you. This is not a value judgment. This is to see if the patterns and the triggers and the samskaras that we're holding are worthless or not. And is there a way to ease them open to start releasing physical patterns, emotional patterns, psychological patterns. And sometimes it is just as simple as questioning, am I giving value to something that is worthless? And oftentimes it's much subtler than that, because this conditioning allows us to identify with. So the suggestion of yoga to put the conditioning aside and explore what's arising in open spaciousness is just incredibly valuable. Good. So let's come on up from here, please. And I had a second thought. I think my theory about Louis and the flashlight is much too crude. I thought, what if I get more into this bright light and then put this on YouTube and tell people this is what you will look like if you do this yoga, and then word will spread. So just a thought. So let's lie down and relax. And for the people that are new to my class, this is about as funny as I get. So it's a challenge to make people uncomfortable and laugh. So I walk a very fine line with that. I do realize that. So thank you for bearing with the discomfort of my borderline funny humor. So I'd like to share this reading from you from a book called Job's Body, written by really a genius in the study of fascia, Dean Johann. I trained with him in the mid-90s, and I've been reading this book for many years. And the reason I'm reading this particular thing is in the last couple of classes, I've been talking about an interesting thing to explore, is that when we suppress anything, when we suppress just a movement of the body, a vocalization, a gesture, an emotion, that ultimately we're suppressing something much deeper. We're suppressing the actual life force. And so he talks about, this is related, the way that he talks about it. So I just would like to share this with you for whatever it's worth. Detaching from the actual substance of our lives and letting our balloon drift into an increasingly imaginative and disembodied atmosphere operates on a variety of levels and scales. Perhaps one of the simplest is that of social conventions, the avoidance of behaviors that we have come to be viewed as impolite, and the adherence to those conventions we have come to associate with common courtesy. For instance, have you noticed that almost every reaction that the body employs to clear itself out has become impolite, embarrassing, or downright revolting? Yawns, sneezes, belches, farts, and sweating are all simple mechanisms that the body uses in order to release toxins, accumulated energy, and tension. And yet we have developed a sophisticated squeamishness, if not a horror, of being guilty of them in polite society. Urination and defecation could not possibly be more universal and natural, but who would be caught dead doing them? The truth is that they are normal, healthy reflexes, and that we run a good chance of being caught dead significantly sooner for not having done them in a sufficiently uninhibited fashion. And certainly we can take that at face value in terms of behaviors and social conventions, but also what this is pointing to is really how we feel, how we contract, and how we express our energy. Because ultimately this contraction, this suppression of our energy gets involved with the compression and the contraction of our cells themselves. And so at a cellular level, We want the body communicating, we want the body flowing, and we want the body expressing itself. And so we run the exploration from the micro to the macro. And this, I was saying in the last class that a healthy system, and I feel physically and psychologically and emotionally, is one that knows how to repair itself. So the yoga is not per se something we use to fix ourselves. It's cultivating an environment so the body, mind, and heart can repair itself. So we're opening up pathways, we're letting the body breathe and relax and have this communication that's intimate between all our processes. So this compression and release, this is what I said earlier, it's not to become more flexible, it's not to create an aesthetic, it's to open up the way that your body needs to express so it can then repair itself. And this is what we would commonly call healing. Okay, so let us come on up, please. So I just want to give you an example of the experience I had with this morning. So I'm going to invite you to roll up 2 blankets. Yeah. The one that we're going to sit in front of could be a little bit lower than the one in back, but it doesn't have to. So what I would like to show you, just really speaking to the sort of intuitive nature of this practice, is that when I did this morning, this is about where I started. And so I came over it and I was like, well, I don't know. I could do this. I could stay here, but I would be concerned and preoccupied of how compressive it was. And I didn't feel relaxed. So what I had to do is I came up and I unrolled this one about to here, and I unrolled this one about to here. Yeah. Yes, I sit on there. Yeah. Or maybe I put this here. You get the idea. Yeah, this is what I did. So I still have the 2 rolls. I'm recommending 2 blankets or towels. And then when I came over, such a softness permeated. And I was like, oh, yes, this is perfect. I can stay here. I'm still feeling compression into my lumbar area, but it feels much safer, much more relaxed, and giving me the opportunity to explore as opposed to clench and allow my body to go into protection mode. So play around with that combination of the rolls, unroll as much as you need to, roll up. So you, as this supports the lumbar curve, it's more of a sigh of like, this is what my body needs, not I can tolerate this, but I might get hurt. So 2 rolls, the buttocks needs to be on the floor. It's kind of low. If you need something for the head, please do. Try to avoid bringing the chin down as you put something under the head. If you could keep the chin just a little either level with the forehead or a little above, that would be good. So this is just an interesting, complex, typically tight area that you want to be cautious with it, please. So when I do make this suggestion, and certainly, please don't think that it's me making this suggestion. It's simply my interpretation of yoga. So when yoga is making the suggestion that you are simply open, spacious awareness, just simple, obvious, and intimate. So we don't want to believe that. We want to go to our direct experience. And one of the reasons that this is overlooked is because most of our focus is on objects. This is what I was saying earlier. A thought is an objective experience. It's an object that comes into your awareness, but also dissipates from your awareness. So this is why we need the inner quiet. This is why we need to hold the body as a sacred container. Because essentially what we're experiencing is the nature of who we are as open spaciousness, as pure awareness, you might say, as pure knowing. So this is the discernment, and this is where we lean in. This is where we rely only on direct experience. We don't make it into another belief system. What happens when I start to defocus from all of the objects, the body, the thoughts, the external world? And if I was going to, be poetic about this, I would say we just simply then rest in the heart. Defocus from the mind, rest in the heart. So let's use the breath a little bit more directly, and also let's direct it. So what I would like you to do is feel into some place along this lumbar area that we're compressing. And I would like you to just bring a little bit more inhale and just feel what responds. And feel that the inhale is very different than the exhale at the level of this felt sense. We're not trying to do anything. We're not trying to fix it or manipulate it, but we're trying to experience this incredibly intimate relationship between the breath, the visceral sense of physicality, and your sense of aliveness. So the inhale, just weave it in someplace where you're feeling it. Notice what that feels like, direct experience. And then your exhale, the same thing. It's going to be just a bit different from the inhale, or maybe a lot different. But really feel the exhale, feel what's happening there. And so just try to stay with this if you can. Just try to inhale, feel this sacral, pelvic, lumbar area, and exhale. And just see if you can stay with it. And the reason I'm asking you to stay with it is because at some point, the mind will come in and disturb this and take you someplace else, and then just make a mental note that that happened. Just observe that and see that we're layering on the habits of the mind, the therapeutic felt sense of the breath, and the visceral sense of the body. And please make this, distinction of subtlety that I'm sharing with you, the difference between attending to an area to fix it or manipulate it, as opposed to just feel it, to come into a direct, visceral, present experience with it. We can only work on the body in the present. Anything else is just mind. And this is what this practice holds for us, to feel a felt sense that, as we quickly see, is interwoven with everything else. So what I would suggest, instead of rolling off of this, it's one way to come out. It's not my preferred way. Put your feet flat on the floor and just slowly move your body up towards your head and shoulders. So we're going to dip out of the lumbar, and we're going to place the back of the hips, the pelvic area, on the bolstering. So this is a nice way to kind of gradually, you're kind of still in it. We're still compressing this area, but it's now reverberating and dissipating a little differently instead of just abruptly coming out. And especially this area with the ligamentation involved in the, the psoas and the pelvis and the lumbar area. And then any movement, take some time to have some movement. If you'd like to bring the knees up towards your chest and sway a bit, or let the knees go back and forth. And just to feel it, just to appreciate, this relationship that we can have with our body based on contraction and expansion and pulsation and vibration. It's so lovely to explore, and it's lovely to have this skill to not have to label and define everything and diagnose it, but just to feel it. It's such a, an incredibly intelligent organism that we get to live in. And then I think we'll just come into a Shavasana. I've been sort of going to the end of the time and letting everybody do as they please, but still do as you please. If you're, need to go off and do something else, or if you want to stay with me for Shavasana, I'll take it to the end and then we'll close. And if you need some inspiration for Shavasana, this guy's still in Shavasana, the whole class. This is the Shavasana master, this box of cat. Frederick, Little Dog Mercury. So just make yourself as comfortable as you can, and we will take this time, this particular pose, really allowing us time not only to rest and to come to closure, but to sink into any feelings that we may have about the ultimate dissolution of the self in the way that we hold our conditioned mind. So if you're open to that, just allow yourself to relax. So please take a moment here and just reinforce any feelings of peace, of relaxation, of equanimity, of safety. And just simply feel this, be grateful for this. This is the domain of this inner world that's not contingent upon the changing outer world. And we want to cultivate this in gratitude and in a sense of certainty. So whatever these feelings you're having that are safe and balanced and centered, just take a moment to just to reinforce them. And then allow your body to just stir a bit, or not. If you prefer just to stay in Shavasana and join my little kitty here, you feel free to do that. If you would like to stir and roll on your side and work your way up to a sitting position, we will close. But do take your time, move slowly, and try to stay with this. This is a vibration that is just as valid and important as all the other movements of the senses. So before the senses get reactivated, just stay with this inner, quiet, gentle, safe place. And we'll just sit in silence if you choose for a few moments. There is no one who becomes free. There is only freedom. Namaste.